Hello, hello. I've gone full Gemini. I've gone full Gemini. Be ready to rumble with this layout today. And I'm not even talking about the cards, but do remember to pick a number between 1 and 4 to see what your extra message for the week is on our weekly reading. So Gemini is very versatile, curious, creative, easily distracted. It is an air sign, so there are a few references, feathers, wings, etc. This citrus twist blend has been really helping me right now. I am a Gemini, so it's been really helping me to stay grounded. It's got some fun, zesty citrus, but it's also got ginger and lemongrass. An array of crystals that work very well for the Gemini energy. Those are whiskers, cat's whiskers. Yep, I have a collection of cat's whiskers. If my cat drops a whisker, for me that is magical and I store them. So my daughter made me laugh because she saw me with a cat whisker the other day and she pretended to bend it and I was like, don't hurt the whisker. Okay, I never pull the whiskers out of my cats, just so you know. Another oil that is to help focus and ground, which is very needed in this all over the place Gemini energy. Some fluorite, some citrine, some ametrine, another bird reference, another feather, and some baubles. So let's take a moment to think about the energy of this week. We start the week with this Gemini full moon, and at the end of the week or just before the weekend, I think it's on Friday, Thursday or Friday, I think it's Friday, Mercury moves from Sagittarius, where he's currently in the same sign as the Sun, Mars, opposite the moon, and he moves into Capricorn. Mercury is really important this week because he's the ruler of this full moon. He rules Gemini, and he is already in shadow to go retrograde, which he will do in Capricorn in, oh, I can't remember the date, but in a week or so. A couple of weeks at least. Anyway, point being, see, can you feel the Gemini energy in the air? Point being that Mercury is very important this week. He is changing signs, he is in his shadow, and he is in charge of this lunation. So let's jump in. This is also Sun is with Mars, so it's kind of inflaming and inflaring this whole full moon. And Moon is opposite that in Gemini, and squaring to those energies is Saturn. So he can be a bit of a Debbie Downer on the whole situation, Saturn in Pisces. And you may be feeling a bit emotional because that is going to bring out some emotional stuff. So let's jump into the reading between 1 and 4. Let's see where you landed. Ta-da! There's the whole reading. And if we bring it down to the first card, we've got our first two are upside down, our next two are the right way up. We also have air, swords, water, cups, and pentacles is earth. We don't have a wands, but bearing in mind that the Sun and Mars and Mercury are all in a fire sign of Sag right now, feel like we got some fire going. We're all good. And one major arcana, the Hangman. So the Six of Swords upside down, this is a card of time to go on a journey, time to accept. There's a lot of surrendering in this reading that comes through, and this one shows that we're struggling to surrender. We're struggling to get on the boat that takes us to the next shore, not really knowing where we're going, but certainly knowing what we're leaving behind. And just with the energy in the sky for this full moon, there may be a bit of like inner critic, like, why didn't you do this sooner? Why do you have to do this? Why are you, why didn't you get through more this year? Why didn't you, your imposter syndrome might be showing up, definite inner critic mumbo jumbo right now. And a lot of past stuff coming up to the surface, maybe to make us a little emotional about those past experiences, which makes it harder to move on. In both these first two cards, we have this energy of struggling to move forward. This next one, the Ace of Cups, is also like we want a new emotional beginning, because water is an emotional element, cups is an emotional suit. It's area of the heart. In fact, let me just turn this around for you a moment. You can see she's even got a little heart in the bowl that she's holding at her heart, and the energy is radiating. So in its upright form, it's this beautiful heart open, new beginning. This real promise of something. Upside down, there's a resistance to letting that beginning begin, which really, especially because it's coming on the heels of the Six of Swords. And we've been getting this again and again and again for weeks and weeks. As a collective, there is so much change happening in our world right now that I think it's just really hard for us to imagine. Luckily, Gemini is an extremely imaginative sign. It's so hard for us to imagine what a new start could look like that all we have to picture, and pictures, imagery is very powerful for us. So all we have to picture is what we've known. You can't make a picture of the unknown unless you use your imagination. And the world is just in such a state of flux that we almost can't even imagine. But we can begin. So this is a good moon for that. And because Saturn is in Pisces, that is also a very imaginal sign. Saturn is about structures. So we get to create the structures of imagining a new way forward. Even though we feel sad, even though we're in a space of grief, which both of these two cards are telling me, it's very important that we start to imagine our way forward. Now, with the Ace of Cups upside down, I would also say that self-care is an absolute priority right now, especially as with the inner critic swirling, with us feeling super emotional and self-critical and judgmental. If we don't take care of ourselves when all of this stuff is coming up, then we're going to be sorry about it in the very near future, because our bodies, if they haven't already started, are going to tell us that we have been abusive, ostensibly, to ourselves, through our thinking, through our neglect. And we can't feel upset when others are not being more caring with us, being more tender with us, being more supportive with us, if we can't do that for ourselves. So let this be a deep, deep self-care reflective week. And then we come into our two upright cards. The Hanged Man is literally the card of surrender. And it's the card in the Major Arcana, which, as I've said many times before, is about an archetypal hero's journey. And it's a card just before the Death card. And the Death card leads to rebirth. So we get to this point with the Hanged Man where there's this kind of creativity that is brewing, but we can't let go of where we've been. And when we do, when we hit that surrender point, we allow the death of the old and therefore the birth of the new. So it's kind of like in the amniotic waters here, where it's like, I know this womb, I know this space, I know I need to be birthed, but I don't want to. This place is comfortable. But as with literal gestation, when you were in the womb, it got so tight in there that you couldn't keep growing in that space. And that discomfort forced you to be born. And that was a combination of energy between the mother holding the child and the child within the womb. And this is kind of where you have to be the wise parent, mothering yourself, nurturing yourself, and also allowing yourself to be born into the next thing, whatever that is, even if we don't know, even if it brings trials and tribulations, it's an important space for us to be. Which makes the final card just so beautiful. And for me, this card really is indicative of Mercury moving into Capricorn, because Capricorn is an earth sign, Pentacles is an earth element. And I mean, this particular rendition of this card, I use the Light Seers Tarot. I don't always remember to mention that, but I just love Chris Ann's deck, the Light Seers Tarot. It's my absolute favorite deck in the world to use. I almost always use it in these readings. And this rendition has got the moon phases in it. And anybody who follows me anywhere knows I'm obsessed with moon phases as well. We find ourselves in the full moon phase, which is the most illuminating and fulfilling, blooming, flourishing, all of those things, phase of a lunar cycle. It's also a very big phase of forgiveness. So when we get to the Eight of Pentacles here, we might want to be looking at, how do I forgive myself for resisting, and that saying, what we resist persists. And so how do I forgive myself for my resistance and allow myself to grow forward and flow forward? How do I forgive those who trespassed against me and allow myself to grow forward and flow forward? And get curious, get creative, get playful, get fun, tap into the lightness of Gemini and that deep desire to follow your bliss and find find what ignites you. I think, especially in terms of learning a new thing, or either some new learning or some new hobby or something fun and playful that excites and ignites. And that is what is actually going to ground you for the next step forward. Because Pentacles, remember, is an earth sign. And here she has all of the raw materials that she needs. It's time for her to actually actualize them. Create these material forms of whatever it is that she's dreaming for. And again, we can come to that Saturn in Pisces. Create the structures, dream the dream, take forward movement, even when it is slow movement. And maybe a good time to reflect on your last 6 months at least, since the Gemini new moon, which actually was on my birthday, so I can tell you the date was the 18th of June. So reflect from the 18th of June to now and say, well, how have I moved forward? And how have I done what needs doing? And what am I still resisting that was there then that hasn't shifted? And how can I take incremental steps towards shifting that now? So I hope this has been helpful and you've enjoyed my very busy Gemini self. Isn't this a crazy feather? I don't even know what it's from. I found it in my garden. It looks like a rooster feather, but I think I would have known if there was a rooster in the garden. So yeah, I'm not sure what he is, but isn't he a cool feather? Okay, I'm also obsessed with collecting feathers and nature gifts like that. Okay, sending lots and lots of full moon love to everyone, and I will be taking a break in the next few weeks, but I'll be back next week before break time. So have a beautiful week, and thank you for all your likes, shares, follows, subscribes, etc.